I would like to call the school board meeting for February 3rd, 2015 for the Des Moines Public Schools to order. Please take the roll.
Ms. Caldwell-Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Ms. Boson.
Here.
Ms. Ellsberg.
Here.
Mr. Barron.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
And Pastor Cheatham.
The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Caldwell-Johnson, second by Ms. Boson. Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes for January 20th, 2015. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Howard, second by Mr. Barron. Please vote. Vote approved 6-0. The next item on the agenda is the consent items. We allow any person the opportunity to speak to the board for up to 5 minutes following the presentation of an agenda item. If anyone wishes to speak to an agenda item, please go to the information desk to sign up. Remarks must be germane to the agenda, and we ask that you avoid reference to personalities and character attacks, as those types of comments serve no productive purpose. This is not a time for the board to engage in discussion or deliberation with the speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among board members at the board table, with speakers' comments informing said discussion, deliberation, and determinations as deemed necessary. We appreciate your input. Ms. Caldwell-Johnson, do you have the motion?
I do, Madam Chair. I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized and certified by the Secretary and approved for payment by the board chair in the amount of $4,499,592.05, and unpaid bills in the amount of $1,071,204.28.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Chairman, could we look at number 15? I'm not against it or anything, but just for we can have some discussion on the fees.
Can we have a second, and then we can discuss?
I'll second it.
Okay. We do have a speaker, Andrew Rasmussen.
Andrew Rasmussen, 313 Southeast Sharon, Ankeny, Iowa, Des Moines Education Association president. As we enter contract negotiation season, I'm super excited to see that the budget is flush enough that we can afford a climate transformation director, but I was curious as to what that position would be responsible for, and I was wondering if we could get any information about what that position would actually be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's open it up for discussion. Mr. Howard, you had a question on the fee schedule?
Yeah, I just, would like, maybe Thomas is the one I need to direct this to. Could you kind of walk us through some of this so that people out there listening can say hear what we're charging comparable to other districts, and that we are in the ballpark with them? Just kind of help us out a little bit on this, if you would.
Okay. Well, as a general principle, what we try to do with the fees is to basically make an attempt to actually cover our costs. I mean, and we're not always successful from that particular standpoint. And from if you want to think about it from a competitive standpoint, like our tax rate, we're kind of like right in the middle. I mean, there are districts who charge more, some charge less, and that's really, it's kind of based upon what the demand for their facilities are. And I'm talking about the fees that we actually charge outside, outside users of our buildings and so forth.
Yeah, and I understand that, in-house is totally different than out of it. And I just wanted to make sure people in the public understand that, we're not trying to make any money. We're not in that kind of business, and that we're basically covering our expenses, total expenses.
Right.
Building
well,
usage.
let me correct you there. That's our goal and that's our objective. And we're not there yet, but basically that's the end goal.
Right.
Right.
And that's that. Like I said, I wasn't against it. I just wanted people to understand that, you know, when we put this out here, you know, there's always an element that says, boy, you guys must be tanking a lot of money here, you know, and we're not. We're just covering the expenses we have,
Right.
which are quite a bit.
Right.
And we're just trying to recover and recoup some of that. So that's all I wanted.
Oh, here it goes. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Any further questions? I would ask Dr. Ahart, would you remind us what the Director of Climate Transformation is responsible for and how that fits into our...
Yeah, we recently received a 5-year federal grant for culture and climate improvements. And so this person will be is grant funded, and will be heading up that work. It'll have to do with a whole host of things, all related to what currently goes on in learning services as well as Office of School. So getting more consistent practices around addressing student behavior issues is one big thing, improving student attendance rates, and establishing some protocols and consistent training for behavior interventionists. That's a brief overview of what this person's responsibilities will be.
Thank you.
Did I hear it say it was being paid out of the grant?
Yes.
Federal grant. Yep. Any other questions or comments?
I, off the record behind the mics, asked the superintendent how many textbooks we give out in kindergarten, as there's a kindergarten textbook fee, and he commented to me that perhaps that's just needs to be rewritten to reflect a different.
Yeah, it could cover more than just textbooks. It could cover other books and materials. Yes.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Caldwell-Johnson and a second by Mr. Howard. Please vote. Consent items are approved 6-0. The next item on the agenda is item D1, public hearing for paving at McCombs for central campus programs. The public hearing will come to order. Is there anyone wishing to speak to item D1, public hearing for paving at McCombs for central campus programs? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Dr. Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
Perhaps. I recommend that the board approve the plans and specifications prepared by Bishop Engineering for paving associated with the central campus programs at the McCombs site.
May I please have a motion and a second to approve the public hearing and for paving at McCombs for central campus programs?
Move approval.
Second.
Is this where I ask a question?
Yes, you may ask a question.
Tom, can you give us a little update, or is this maybe not the time on where we're at with the aviation? Because I see that part of it's for the aviation thing. I mean, do we have any, I just don't want to pave a lane out to nothing. Are we there?
I don't think we've started pouring footings, but have we? Oh, yeah. Would you please, Bill? Thanks.
Okay, could you ask that question one more time?
I just want to make sure that, have we got the bumps and warts and everything that we were running into with the aviation? Has that kind of been ironed out? Because it seems like I haven't heard anything on it, so I'm hoping the answer is yes on that, so that the concrete has something to go to.
Yes, typically we hear more about the bumps and warts than we do progress, so we have not heard anything, and we believe that we're right on track.
Okay.
So, as you may remember, that we're planning on having this facility ready to go to start the school year.
Okay. I just, little mind jog there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussions? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Barron, a second by Mr. Howard. Please vote. The public hearing is approved 6-0. The next item on our agenda is item E1, process for filling a midterm board vacancy. This is a discussion item. The agenda item does show that we were anticipating the resignation of Pastor Toussaint Cheatham. Since the creation of this agenda item, we did receive a letter earlier today, his letter of resignation due to various health issues. I know we are sorry to see Pastor Cheatham go, but we do have now the responsibility of, within 30 days of today, filling that vacancy through appointment. And then the way that works, the person that we would appoint would serve until the voters elect a District 2 chair or board of directors person at the September elections. And I guess to start things off, as a starting point for this discussion, Rob and I have a timeline proposal mapped out simply based on the way that the board handled the vacancy in 2012 when Patty Link resigned. And that would include asking for people to submit letters of interest and resumes, which the board would go through and determine 3 to 5 candidates to do an interview, and then eventually select someone to appoint. Now, that's just one way to go about it, and I will open up the floor to discuss any thoughts, input. And the dates that I have here are just kind of more or less the weeks that we would want to do that, and we could select a date for each specific item. And we can be ready to appoint someone by the March 3rd meeting, which I believe is 28 days. So it gets us within our 30 days as required by both our policy and Iowa code.
So I think an important distinction that has to be drawn is that this is not an at-large seat, this is a district-specific seat. So anyone who would apply, if we decided to move forward with this process, would have to live within the boundaries of Director District Number 2. Is that correct? Okay, all right. So since I've been on the board, we've actually had 2 vacancies, and we've approached it 2 different ways. One opportunity, we filled the vacancy with the next highest vote getter in the most previous election. And then, as you mentioned, in 2012, we actually received resumes and letters of interest from individuals who were interested in pursuing the seat. And I actually think I like, while we got a great representative both times, I think I like the process that is open to the public for individuals who may be interested. And I would definitely be in support of pursuing that option and the appropriate timeline that you've delineated. So that's where I would end up. Okay.
Anyone else have thoughts, comments?
I think I too have been through both. So either way, I think this way it's the same process that we used last time. I think it worked. It does give people the opportunity, and that would give the person that did run, if they would choose to, if other people that ran last time want to apply, they could apply. I do think I think there's a short timeline that everybody has to pretty much decide quickly and show their interest.
I guess for the sake of people out there who don't have the benefit of having this handout that I put together earlier today, we have the resignation effective today. Within the next couple of days, we would have a press release going out with whatever appointment process we do choose. If we decided to take letters of interest and resumes from interested people living in that director district, we would ask for those between probably tomorrow or whenever our process is finalized, and February 16th. On February 14th, we would intend to hold a How the School Board Works workshop, and that's a Saturday, with the idea that anyone interested in this seat, as well as anybody interested in running in future elections, anybody interested in knowing more about how the board governs on its behalf, would be welcome to register and attend. And that participation in the workshop would be a consideration in the board's deliberations for appointment. And then between February 17th and 20th, the board would review the letters of interest and resumes to whittle it down to the top, perhaps 3 candidates who would be contacted for interview. Somewhere in the time frame of February 24th to 26th, we would hold a public interview of the candidates. We did that here last time in 2012, and I believe they may have also been televised. I can't remember for sure. And by February 27th, we would meet to discuss and determine the candidate appointment. And by March 3rd, the appointed District 2 candidate would be sworn in at the regular school board meeting, and their service period would be from March 3rd to September 15th, with school board elections on September 8th, and whomever is elected to that position being sworn in at the September 15th meeting.
I see here that will the full board discuss on this predetermined matrix? So will this be a full board participation as far as what we are looking for?
I think that's something that we can decide. I'm fine with that. I think last time we had a subcommittee of 4. I think either way.
Cindy and I talked about this earlier today. I don't have a dog in the fight necessarily, although I kind of think that although the board did go with the subcommittee last time, maybe it makes a little bit more sense there's just 6 of us that are involved in this process. All 6 may as well meet to review the full slate of candidates to whittle that down to the top 3. But I'm open to other arguments as well.
Does anybody have any other thoughts on that? On whether it's,
I don't think it matters either way. Like you said, there's only 6 of us, so. But just to make sure, everybody's got to be able to, if they want to participate, they have to be with the date we set, and if they can't participate, then I guess they don't participate. So we can't say we're going to wait till we get everybody's consensus of the day, because we're on a pretty short time frame here. So I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
That if you can make it, you can make it. If you can't, then you rely on the rest of the board to submit the finals, if everybody's agreeable to that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be pretty hard and fast once we set dates, since we are only working with 30 days. And then when we did the board interviews the last time, there were 3 finalists, and all 3 candidates were interviewed on one night. And I think that worked well.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I would agree with that. So I think the timeline looks good. I think the concept of letting it be open.
I think the idea is to get the best possible person with no other strings attached, as long as they fit the requirements of serving from this district. I want to point out something that Cindy talked about, which is, in addition from prior years, is we are investigating the possibility of doing this How the School Board Works workshop on February 14th, which would be a benefit to anyone that would be interested in this appointment, but also anyone interested in running or being involved in the school board. And this would be a really just an educational session about being a school board member, about issues within the district, about being an elected official. There was definitely intent in trying to do it on February 14th, which was not to mess with people's Valentine's Day plans, but rather to offer this session before the deadline to apply to fill this seat, so that both we could get a better sense of who's serious about this and who would take the time to come out on a Saturday and participate in something like this, and also so that those interested can get a better sense of what they're getting into. before they propose marriage.
Right.
I was just going to ask a more fundamental question, and I'm not for sure. I feel like we've talked about this before, but I'm not for sure I remember the answer. I was actually logging on to the website to look at the four districts. I think this is an important distinction that we need to draw. When an individual makes application and advances their name for consideration, is there a requirement that they already live in District 2 in order to be considered?
I believe that is what needs to happen.
I think probably it's important that at whatever point we put out what our process is going to be, that we make some very distinguishing indications of what the specific requirements are, so that we're not put in a position to have to scurry and determine whether or not someone actually qualifies, and there's just sort of a unwritten rule that people are going to comply by, the rules as delineated or designated. Because if that's not the case, then we're going to add additional time to our screening process in order to determine that. So
Right.
I would encourage anybody who's considering, though, and is listening tonight, to make sure you log on to the district's website to look at the boundaries for District 2.
Right.
And if not, call the election office too to get
Correct,
the
to
exact
get the
boundaries.
exact boundaries.
Because they're kind of hard to see.
Right.
You know, what street cuts off where. So I would say they would probably give them their address. They can tell them, pull it up and find out where they live.
Does anybody else have any other comments, questions, concerns as we do this? So I think,
I do have one.
Oh,
I
sure.
think, just from looking at it, I think to make it clear too, that when they do apply, that they are public, it's going to be public information from the get-go.
yeah.
I mean, I know
Right.
sometimes
Stick to open
you
record.
apply and then they divide them up and then it doesn't come public until you get to 6. Or
Right.
that in this case,
It is.
it's public. If you've thrown your name in the hat,
You've applied.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a
Right,
good
and
point.
and,
That's a great point.
yep,
Yeah, it's no different than when you actually run and you get your signatures and your name goes on the ballot. This is the same thing.
yep. Okay.
Welcome to the public.
So I think the next step would be to land on specific dates for our meeting to discuss whatever letters of interest and resumes we get, somewhere between February 17th and 20th, and then also to land on an interview date for those top 3 candidates. And we can either discuss that right now, or I am willing to send out a doodle poll to,
Why don't we do the doodle poll? Because I don't have
land
any
on
of
a
my
date
stuff
and
with
then-
me right now.
I'll send that out as either yet tonight or as soon as possible tomorrow morning. So if everyone can attend to that as soon as possible, and then we can get that out, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, get the finalized process. And does that sound doable for everyone?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
For me, anyway.
All right.
I would agree that, I know my schedule's kind of crazy over the course of the next several weeks, but I'm perfectly comfortable if I'm not available to participate in the screening process, that you guys will come up with great candidates and I'll just join you in the interviews. So I don't want to in any way impede that process, but I'm perfectly comfortable with whatever date you determine and whatever candidates you advance.
Okay, thank you.
I think before we move off of this item, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't give some words of appreciation to Toussaint Cheatham too.
That's what I was saying.
He stepped up when his community asked him to run, and took on a tough task and ran a good campaign and won. I'm always partial to the people that ran and won when I did too, and so Toussaint and I were first-time board members together, and it's been a tough decision for him. To whether to stay on or not in the board, and all of it's been affected by some pretty serious health issues. And he's a father, and his family has come first, and he's made the right decision, I think. But it's going to be terribly sad to see him go. And he has consistently told me and Cindy when we've met with him and made it clear in his letter that he will still be very active in this district, and I certainly hope that he will be.
That's what I was going to say. It was great to be able to meet him. And I think that even if you step off the board, he can do great things with, he's involved in Moulton already where his daughter is, and he'll be able to continue that, and I'll probably be calling on him for things.
Right.
But I appreciate his decision because it is, again, your health is number one and your family too. So we appreciate his time that he did spend because as we all know, and maybe if you're thinking of running, you spend a lot of time, a lot more than you probably anticipated when you first thought of running for a school board. So we appreciate the time that he committed to it.
Absolutely. Mr. Howard?
This kind of reminds me when Patty resigned, how it was very traumatic, and it was because of her family. And Toussaint, it's a mixture of his health and family. Anybody who runs needs to understand that to do it right, your family does somewhat take a hit on this if you do it right, because it is very time consuming, and it is stressful. And so we all don't do it for the pay. We all know that. So it is something that if somebody is serious about it, those are considerations that they need to really weigh, because they are very, very large.
And in case anybody is curious, school board members do not get paid, in case if somebody out there is wondering.
You don't get that stipend?
I was just going to thank Rob and Cindy also for interfacing and helping to facilitate this process. I know it's been challenging, and I know that the decision that Toussaint made is one that will be to his benefit, but the gain that the community and his family and his church will get is our loss. And he'll be missed, because I really think that the perspective that he brought and also the wisdom that he used to direct his work here was just amazing in a very, very, very short period of time. So I'll miss his parables. I'll miss his teachings, but I know he's not too far away, and we can call on him at any point. So thank you, too, for your leadership in helping us sort of get to where we are, and thanks, Toussaint, for your service.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks all for that quick decision. Let's see, the next item on our agenda are items of privilege. Let me get to the right place. First, the chair's report. Board, I have scheduled with Eric West some training dates for Saturday, March 7th and Saturday, April 11th. Saturday, May 2 session is on hold as well, so please add those to your calendar. March 7, April 11, May 2.
Second,
And that
11.
is the only thing I have to report at this time. Did any other board members have anything to add? Share. Okay, next on the agenda, superintendent's report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Ahart.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to publicly express, I've done it privately, but my appreciation for Pastor Cheatham's service on the board. He was a great representative of District 2, my district, and a great voice to have around the table, and he will be missed. A couple of notes. We were fortunate from a school perspective that the first big snowfall of the year occurred over the weekend, and I would like to recognize that it was uncomfortable and inconvenient for many to make it to school and work on time yesterday. But we were confident that a 2-hour late start would not have improved conditions significantly, and thanks to the City of Des Moines' snow removal efforts and outstanding efforts by our transportation and custodial and maintenance crews, we had a successful return to school on post-Super Bowl Monday. Although news from the Hill has not been particularly positive so far this legislative session, very little has been decided for fiscal year 2016, and I would like to encourage our board, of course, but also our entire community to engage with their legislators to help them make votes that are supportive of public education and supportive of DMPS. And I did just get word this afternoon that the Senate Democrats have made a proposal for 4% new money for both FY16 and FY17, so I guess the battle lines are drawn, and we'll see where that debate heads. A couple of other notes. I would like to recognize DMPS Executive Chef Chad Taylor and the Food and Nutrition Department for developing some new dishes that appeal to some of our students that come to us from across the globe. Last week, he piloted some new recipes with some Burmese students at Meredith Middle School that were very well received, although maybe not quite spicy enough for their taste. But I really salute Chef Taylor for recognizing that maybe what our typical fare has been isn't as appealing to our very rapidly changing student population, and demonstrating a willingness to step out on an edge and do some inventive things in response to student desires. And then finally, with only 2 weeks from the basketball postseason, our Hoover boys are 15-0. There's a lot of exciting girls and boys basketball action in the next couple of weeks. So if you just go to the DMPS homepage, there's a little calendar there. Any night you want something to do, just click on the day, and it'll bring up all of our offerings, athletics and otherwise. And good luck to all of our teams, but Hoover is on quite a terrific roll right now, and it'd be awesome to see as much support as we can. They're sort of taking over for North this year as sort of the darling of the district, and 15-0 is impressive anywhere, but in the CIML, not too shabby, especially for one of the smallest schools in the CIML. So great work by the team over there at Hoover. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now adjourn the meeting, and we will reconvene shortly for closed session.